Today's video is sponsored by Realm. Working with SQLite and core data can be complicated and challenging. Realm provides an easy-to-use API for iOS, Android, and cross-platform frameworks which allows the user to persist and query data. Realm also has an exciting new feature which allows your mobile app's database to sync with MongoDB Atlas. There is a generous free tier that covers smaller apps, but for the first 100 users can also redeem $50 worth of credits for the paid tier. Check out the YouTube description for all the links and resources. So before diving into the implementation details, let's go ahead and first check what you will be building in this video. You can see that this is a grocery application and I have added a couple of different grocery stores. I can add a plus button and I can go ahead and add a different store, let's say Albertsons. And this store can be located anywhere. So I'm just going to say in 1200, let's say LAX Road in LA. And you can see that my new store has been added. Now each store and all of these information is being persisted into the Realm database, which is located on the device itself. I can go to Albertsons and I can see this filter, which allows me to filter the item. But since there are no items, so that's why it's saying no items are available. But I can go ahead and add certain items to this particular store. So let's say that if I want to buy milk, I can go ahead and add milk. If I want to buy something else, let's say meat, and for meat I want to buy fish, quantity, let's say 5, I can do that. It will also allow me to sort based on my selection. So you can see that I'm selecting different things, and for dairy and for meat there are some options. So it shows me, it allows me to filter. I can even check mark the item and say, okay, I'm done buying with this item. So this item is done. I've already bought this item. I can click on the milk and I can update the item also. So it's selected dairy right now over here, but maybe I want to say it's oat milk or something, and maybe I can even change the quantity. So this is all we'll be building in this video, which includes creating, reading, deleting, and also creating these nested relationships. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, everyone. So now that you have seen what we'll be building in this particular video, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to open up Xcode and I'm going to select iOS, App, and then we can go ahead and select our interface. In this case, we're selecting SwiftUI because that is the technology that we want to use to construct and create our interface. Let's go ahead and write the name of our application. This can be anything you want. And then you can save it anywhere you like. I'm just going to save it on the desktop, but it can be any place you want. I'm also going to change the simulator to iPhone 13 Pro Max. Let's go ahead and resume it. And the first thing you will notice is our content view, which is our SwiftUI default view, and it's simply displaying Hello World. Currently, we have not added Realm or any of the dependencies. So we must go and add packages for Realm to get started. In order to add a package, we will simply go to the File menu, add a package, and right in the search bar, you can actually search for the package that you want to add. So I'm going to go ahead and paste this, which is a package for Realm Cocoa. And these things you can just leave it as default, and we will click on the Add Package. Now, since we are adding this package to our brand new project, this can take a little bit of time depending on your internet connection. So we're going to come back to it once this has done downloading and integrating the package with our application. this package contains multiple products. So in this case, we are going to select Realm and Realm Swift, both of them, and then click on adding the package. Now you can see that the package has been added in the package dependencies in your Xcode, and your application is currently being indexed and processing files is taking place. Let's go ahead and wait on that. Once this is finished, then we can start with our application. If you go to the content view, and you can see that it's still indexing the files, so that's perfectly fine. If you go to the content view, you will see that I don't really have any code in there. It's simply text, and you can see that it's simply displaying a hello world, and that's it. A couple of other things that we can set up easily is making sure that we're not getting any constraints errors. So those are things that are not really related to Realm, but we can add that quickly right over here. So this is going to hide all the constraints errors that will be displayed due to SwiftUI and all the dependencies. All right. We're also going to go ahead and add a line that is going to display the path for the document directory. And the reason that we're going to do that is because in the documents directory, the Realm file will be created, and that is something that we need. We need to check out the contents of the Realm file, contents of the database. So we're simply going to print ahead the actual path of the documents directory. Great. Now let's go back to our content view. So what do we want to do in our content view? Well, we want the user to be able to display a shopping list. So we're going to start with adding a navigation view. And the reason we're adding a navigation view is that we want to go to the other views also. And on the top, we also want to say some sort of a message that, hey, click over here to go to a particular page. All right. Let's go ahead and add a navigation title. This can be anything. I'm just going to write grocery app, but you can be more creative and write the name of your application. Next, we're going to go ahead and create the toolbar. And by using the toolbar, we will be able to create a plus sign that will take us to a different page. The placement of that particular toolbar item will be on the trailing part. So we're just going to go ahead and say trailing. And the content view over here can be anything. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a button. All right. So let's go ahead and add a button with an action and a label. The label is simply going to use the image. We're going to use the system name of plus. Let's go ahead and build it. And let's also go ahead and try to update our interface so that it can reflect our new code. You can see that right now our build is still building, so that's why it's taking a little bit of time. But keep in mind that this build is not going to take that much time on subsequent builds, meaning currently it's building all the package dependencies also for the first time, but next time it won't be doing that because it will be cached. So let's go ahead and make sure that the build is completed so that we will be able to update our interface. All right, so the next step for us is to display a modal or a sheet. For that, I'm going to go ahead and first of all wrap this text inside a VStack just so that it will look a little bit nicer. And in order to display the sheet, I'm going to go ahead and create a state variable. There we go, on the line number 12. And then we can go over here and say is presented is true. But keep in mind that we still haven't really used the sheet. I'm also going to move this toolbar and add it right after the VStack. All right. Now we can go ahead and work on the sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and add a sheet. Bindable to is presented. and the content of the sheet can be anything. So this is where we have to create and display a view called Add Shopping List Screen, which we, by the way, don't have. So this is going to give us some problems, saying that the Add Shopping List Screen view doesn't really exist. So let's go ahead and create it and organize it a little bit better. We're going to create the Screens folder. And inside the Screens folder, I can add a new SwiftUI view that will be responsible for displaying the Add Shopping List screen. There we go. All right. So now we have the Add Shopping List screen, which is basically a SwiftUI view. If I go back over here and run this application, you will be able to see that when I click on the plus button, we will be able to launch the application. All right, so let's go ahead and see that if the preview is working or not. There we go, and there we go. You can see that it displays Hello World, which is coming from our Add Shopping List screen. Now, what will the Add Shopping List screen look like? Well, it will have a couple of different things. In order to add a shopping list, you need to enter the title of the shopping list as well as the address. So we're going to add the title and the address. We will also add a navigation view so that we can have a toolbar on the top. And in the toolbar, in the tab bar, the URL bar, we can say navigation title, new list. But you can say anything you want. In order to create the actual text boxes, we're going to take help from the form element. And in the form element, I'm going to add two different text boxes, one for the title and one for the address. And you'll be able to see on the right-hand side in the preview that how it looks like. It looks pretty good. You can see that. We will also have some sort of a button that will allow us to save the information. Now, this button can be anything. So let's go ahead and create the button using the action, meaning when you click a button, what will happen, and some sort of a text. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a text label, making sure that the text label goes all the way, and the button style, we will check it out to be bordered. This will look like a nice button. Great. But now the question is, well, how do we save it? And after saving it, we also want to dismiss it. So dismiss is actually pretty simple because you can simply use the environment object dismiss and simply call the dismiss function. Great. But at this point, we don't have anything called a shopping list. Although we have added packages for Realm and Realm database, we don't have any means to save into the Realm document database. For this, we will have to create model classes. So let's go ahead and create model classes so that Realm can save the information in the database based on the properties of that model classes. All right, so let's go ahead and start creating our model classes that will enable us to persist the information into the Realm device database. I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder, and we will call it models. You can call it anything you want. And then we can go ahead and create a new Swift file, and I will call it shopping list. This is going to represent a particular shopping list. Okay, since we are using this particular shopping list file, we're going to start with importing Realm Swift. And the reason we're importing Realm Swift is that Realm consists of some property wrappers that we will be using. We're going to go ahead and also say that this is our shopping list class that we are creating, which is inheriting from the object. And we will also make sure this is identifiable so that we can use it on the interface. Next up, we're going to go ahead and create a persisted property wrapper where we're going to specify the primary key will be yes and the ID will be the primary key. So that is the property wrapper that is available through Realm. And persisted simply means that this property wrapper will allow the property, which is ID, to be persisted into the storage. That will be the Realm MongoDB storage. But we need some other properties also. We need to save the title, and we also need to save the address associated with the shopping list. So let's go ahead and add that. Next up, we will override our class function, which is a primary key, and return the name of the property that will act as a primary key, which in this case is ID. So now we have a shopping list class, which can consist of the ID property, which is a primary key, title, as well as the address. So now if we go back to our add shopping list, we will be able to create that particular shopping list and also save it. Realm does allow you to utilize some of the handy property wrappers as well as shortcuts and utilities to save your data. So let's go ahead and take a look how we can use that. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create the observe results. Now you can see it's not really coming up. That's because I still need to import Realm Swift. Okay, so now I can go ahead and use observe results, which is part of Realm. Observe results of type shoppinglist.self, and this will be a collection. So this means that whenever I append to this collection, that particular object will automatically be written to the Realm database. Inside the action over here, I will go ahead and create a shopping list record. So create a shopping list record. So we'll start with shopping list. This is the same shopping list class that we just implemented. So we're going to create the shopping list instance. We are going to say shopping list.title, and we will assign the title. Make sure that this title is actually coming from the state property. And since it is a binding and state is a bindable property, you can see that it is going to get populated with our title. Shopping list again, dot address, and the same thing with the address. And now the cool part. If you want to add this shopping list to the Realm database, all you need to do is to use the shopping list array that we have created, or the shopping list observe results that we created on line number 16, and append to it. So this is kind of like the helper functions that are provided to you by Realm, and how easy it is making you to persist information. And that's it. That's all the code that you need to save it into the shopping list. And after saving it, we are making sure that we dismiss the model. Now, one thing you might be wondering is if you are saving something in the shopping list or in the MongoDB database using Realm, then is there any way for you to see that? Meaning visually, can you check that out and confirm that you have successfully saved a shopping list? And the good news is that there is such a tool created by MongoDB, which is called the MongoDB Realm Studio. Let me show you how that works. Now, I have already downloaded the MongoDB Realm Studio, and the link to MongoDB Realm Studio Mac app is right there in the YouTube description, so you can download it too. MongoDB Realm Studio is a graphical user interface tool that allows you to look into the database that you're creating with your application. Now, this can be very, very important and handy so that you can check that if the data is actually being saved, persisted, or not. Let's go back to our application and run our app to see that if we can persist our data or not. I'm going to go ahead and run the simulator. There we go. Now we can press our plus button and you can see the sheet actually shows up. I can type in the name of a shopping list and the address associated with that shopping list. And let's go ahead and press the save button. Okay, so no error, nothing, and I think it's saved, but it's kind of hard to tell, right, that if it's saved or not. Let's go ahead and stop our application and check out our contents that are displayed on the output window. Now, if you remember one thing that we did in our grocery app file, the main file, is printing out the path of the documents directory. And the reason we printed out the path of the documents directory was that so we can easily open it, and not only open it, but also open Realm. So I'm just going to go ahead and say services. If you select that path and say services, and then simply say kind of like open, then you can see the Realm file over there. This is a Realm file, which is basically the database file. I can go ahead and click on it and say open with MongoDB Realm Studio. So make sure that you have installed MongoDB Realm Studio. The link is right there in the description. You can check it out. And now I'm going to go ahead and open it, and there we go. Congratulations, because you have saved your first item into the Realm database. This is pretty cool, right? I mean, we didn't really have to type that much to save it into the Realm database. So we have created a shopping list collection, which is right here, and we have added a brand new item to it, which consists of a title, HEV, and address. This is very, very cool that we can see all the data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it out to a separate screen. So I can always look at it just to make sure that the data is being saved or not. Let's go ahead and run our application again. And this time, we're also going to, again, save some data. So I'm going to go ahead and launch it. And this time, I'm going to say Walmart and whatever the address of Walmart is. These are not the real addresses. 1960 and Walters. And let's go ahead and save it. Okay. Let's go ahead and check our database. And yes, there is Walmart that is being saved. Awesome. So we are on the right track. The next task that we want to do is we want to print out all the elements. We want to fetch all the different things that we have saved in the database, and we want to display them on the screen. So how can we do that using Realm? So we'll go back to the content view. You can see that we are currently inside the content view. And currently the content view only shows us the text, which is appearing right there. We don't really want to show the text. We want to show a list of all the shopping lists that we have added. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to use the same exact procedure, meaning observe results, and we're going to use it in our content view. Now, for this to work, we will also need to import Realm Swift so that we can use this feature. So you can see that the Realm works very nicely with SwiftUI, and they have provided all of these utilities and property wrappers that we can use in our application. Inside the vStack, we're going to check, first of all, if the shopping list is empty. Well, if it's empty, then probably we should display a message like no shopping list. So let's go ahead and do that. And we can also go ahead and create the list. If there is a list, then we will display the list. Now, if you're wondering that why am I not passing anything over here in the list constructor initializer, you will see in a moment that the reason that we are using a for each over here is that because eventually we also want to delete the list. So we're going to go through all of these lists. We're going to get access to the shopping list. We're going to call it shopping list. Okay. And we just want to display it. So good way to begin will be simply displaying the title of the shopping list. And that's it. Let's go ahead and first build the app. Let's go ahead and run it. And there we go. We can actually display all the items. HEB, Walmart. Let's go ahead and add another one. I'm going to add Fiesta. And let's just say Hardwind Drive or something. And save it. You can see that as soon as we add the item and dismiss, the observe results automatically fetches the new items and then also populate all the items in our view. So that is pretty cool that we can do all of that stuff using Realm because they have provided us with the observe results collection. The next task that we want to do is maybe to even display the different things associated with the item. Now, these things can be item count and all that stuff. You can display if you want, you can display the address associated with the item. So I can go ahead and probably put this inside a VStack. And if you want, you can display the address also. Text, which in this case will be shopping list dot address. We can also change the opacity of the address to be 0.4 and making sure that the alignment is actually leading. Let's go ahead and run this, and we should be able to see the title as well as the address associated with a shopping list. Pretty cool. Very good. Next, let's go ahead and work on the delete part of it. Now the question is, how do we actually delete a particular shopping list? For the for each, we can attach the onDelete modifier. And one of the benefits of using the observe result using Realm is that if you want to delete, all you need to do is to call the remove function. And it will automatically pass in the selected item and it will automatically delete it. And that's it. That's just one line of code. Not even one line, I guess. Let's go ahead and run this. And let's say that I'm going to delete Walmart. And there we go. It's deleted. That's all it takes to delete an item from the database. Now, if I go ahead and go to an actual database, you can actually see that it is gone from the database. We only see HEB and Fiesta. If I want to delete Fiesta, there we go. And Fiesta is gone. So we are able to add an item, we're able to delete an item, we're able to view the grocery shopping list. The next step in our application would be how can we allow the user to add items to a particular grocery shopping list. Right now, you can see the shopping list is empty. We don't have any items. It's just the name of the store, basically. But what if we want to add items to each store? Maybe I want to buy eggs and bread and milk from Fiesta, but I want to buy chicken and meat and fish from Albertsons. So how do we do that? So let's go ahead and see how we can create those associations in Realm. In order to create a relationship between a shopping list and the item, we will have to go ahead and create another model. That model will represent the shopping item. This will be the item that we are trying to buy from the store, like milk and cookies and bread and eggs. So I'm going to simply call this shopping item. Just like the shopping list model that we have created, we are adding a shopping item model. We'll start by adding Realm Swift. Next, we can create a class called shopping item. which will be inheriting from object, and it will be identifiable because eventually we would like to display this on the screen. We'll start with the same exact thing, meaning we need to pass in the different things associated with the item. This can be the title, this can be the quantity, this can even be like the price if you want to, but we're just going to go with title and quantity. If you want to add price and other stuff, that is perfectly fine. You can display those things also. We're also going to go ahead and override the primary key static class function, which will indicate that the primary key is ID property, which is right over here. Let's go ahead and build it. Now, currently we have created the shopping item class, but currently it doesn't have any relationship with shopping list. So let's go back to the shopping list, and you will see that we don't have any relationship with the new property that we're about to add. So we're going to add the items property, which will be of type list of shopping item. And we will also initialize this particular list of shopping item to be an empty list because we're just creating it from scratch. Now, keeping in mind that we did change a couple of things, right? In the shopping list, we added this particular property called items. Not only that, we also went to the shopping item. We created a shopping item and added a couple of different fields. Let's go ahead and build it. Let's try to run this application now by adding these couple of things. And you will notice that your app doesn't run anymore. It actually just blows up. If you check out over here, the error message, one of the error that is saying is the shopping list.items have been added. Basically, it's telling us that it knew about the shopping list or the schema and the structure of the shopping list, which consisted of the ID, title, and address, but you changed it. You did something to it, and now the shopping list contains more properties, which is correct because we did added items property. But our schema, meaning the structure of the database, doesn't really know that, and that's why it is failing. There are a couple of ways to solve this problem. The easiest solution for you is to simply delete the app and then install it again. But I think we can do a little bit better. We can create a migration that is going to migrate, meaning it's going to keep track of the changes that you're doing to the shopping list model or the shopping item model or some other model, and it's going to migrate those changes to the schema, meaning it's going to tell Realm that, hey, there is a new field that we just added, so make sure that you add that to the updated schema version. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and create a migration that is going to help us create these new fields and make sure that our schema will be up to date. I'm going to go ahead and create a brand new folder, and I will call it utils for utility. And inside over here, I'm going to go ahead and add a new Swift file. We will call it migrator. This will be responsible for performing the migrations. Let's go ahead and import Realm Swift. And we are going to create a class called migrator. And inside the init function of the migrator, we're going to call update schema with a function update schema. Next, we are going to go ahead and create a config. So config equals to realm.configuration, and now we can pass in the schema version. So we're going to go with you can see that the constructor takes in a lot of different arguments, but we only need few of them. So even though we're passing like a lot of stuff over there, we actually only need few. So we're going to just keep the schema version over here and a couple of different closures. So this is going to give us a migration and the old schema version. Now we need to pass in the schema version right there. Our current schema, since we haven't really updated it, should be 0. So we're going to pass in 1, meaning this will be our new schema that we're creating. And now we can check that if the old version of the schema is less than 1, which I think it is because it's 0, then we can go ahead and add new fields to it, meaning we can go ahead and add new properties and stuff that you have added to the old schema. So in this case, I'm just going to say migration.enumerate objects of type, and I believe we are changing the shopping list.class name, and we're going to get the old object, which we don't really care about, the new object, and now we can add some properties in the new object. You can see that currently we are trying to only change shopping list because that's the one that was actually changed. By adding the shopping item, that's okay. The shopping item didn't really do anything with the migration because it was a new type that we added. So now we can say in the new object, there will be a property called items. So we are talking about shopping list, and we can initialize this with shopping item with an empty list. All right. Next up, we will have to go ahead and run this particular configuration or set this as a default configuration. So let's go ahead and set it to be config. And in order to make sure that everything works correctly, we will initialize our realm object. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and see what is going on over here. I think we missed the equal to sign. So this is our migrator that we have created, which will help us to update the schema. Now the question is, well, where should we fire this migrator? I'm going to go back to the grocery app file, and we can run our migrator somewhere on the top. That's fine. Every time the app is actually going to run, we are going to run this migrator. So we can say migrator. There we go. This is basically running the migration. All right. After our build is done, let's go ahead and run it again. And now you can see that it didn't really blow up because it was like, hey, where did these items coming from? Because the migrator is already migrating and adding that particular property. Now if I go back to our code over here, you can see that we have the items over here. It's an empty list, so we have no items over here. All right. And if you look at the shopping item, well, we don't really have any shopping item as of yet. Our next task would be to allow the user to go to a shopping item or shopping list details screen where they can add the item. So let's go ahead and work on that. We will go back to our content view. Right now, the content view does not really allow the user to navigate to a shopping list item screen because there is no navigation link over here. So let's go ahead and try to use a navigation link. I'm going to go ahead over here and wrap this with a navigation link. Now, for the navigation link to work, we have to utilize a couple of different things. We can pass in the destination and the label. The destination is basically wherever you want to go. So right now, I'm just going to go ahead and say destination, which means that it's going to show us a text view, and that's it. Label means that what you want it to display or the interaction part, meaning what the user will click to go to the destination. So we're going to put our vertical stack over here. Let's go ahead and build it. And once it is built, let's go ahead and try to run the application. Okay, we only have one item, and if I click on it, it actually does take us to the destination. Let's go ahead and add a couple of more items. So I'm going to go ahead and over here and say Fiesta, and the location can be whatever. Richmond, well, Richmond I think we already used, so I'm just going to say Harvin Avenue. There we go. Looks like everything is working fine, and we are able to go from one page to the other page. We obviously don't really want to go to the text destination. We want to go to the shopping list item screen so that we can add an item. This means that we will end up creating another screen. So let's go ahead and add another SwiftUI view. And we will create it. Perfect. So for our shopping list item screen, this will be responsible for showing us all the different shopping items based on the selected shopping list. All right. In order for this to work, we also will need to create some sort of a category filter, meaning what kind of items do you want to buy or want to select. But before we do that, let's go ahead and add a vertical stack. There we go. And we're going to use the same exact approach that we used previously, which means that we are going to allow the user to add these items using a model sheet. So let me go ahead and add the is presented. So the same exact concept that we are using, we are trying to create this. Let me go ahead and see if we can actually look at it in the actual canvas. What we're trying to do is actually exactly the same as we were doing before. We're trying to add a navigation bar. Let's go ahead and add some text over here. We will say items will be displayed over there. And what we're trying to do is to add a navigation title. So title, so this will be the shopping list name. So I'm just going to say HEB, I guess, in this case. But we will obviously have to change this to accommodate whatever we are passing. In order for the previews to work, we will have to wrap this with a navigation view so that the preview will know how to handle the navigation title. And now we can go ahead and add a toolbar that is going to give us a plus button. So let's add a toolbar, which you can see it's pretty much the same exact thing that we did last time. And finally, we can go ahead and add a sheet just below the toolbar, which is going to display the add shopping list item screen, which we don't have. So let's go ahead and create the add shopping item list screen. So the whole architecture is very, very similar for adding a shopping list as well as adding the shopping list item. Okay, now in order to add a particular add shopping list item, we need to be passing in the actual shopping list that you're trying to add. So this is something that you will have to pass in. Make sure that we import Realm Swift. And over here in the bottom, we have to pass in some sort of a shopping list. So we'll just create a new one. Let's go back and see now what the problem is. Okay, so now basically it is saying that on the shopping list items screen, it doesn't know anything about the actual shopping list. And the good thing is that for the shopping list item screen, you need to pass in the shopping list. Once again, we will go ahead and import Realm Swift. And we will probably add the missing item, which will be a shopping list, not over here, but in the definition. There we go. Shopping list. All right. Okay. So now we have the shopping list item screen. Let's go back to our content view. You can see that the destination is currently going to the destination. This is where we should be going to somewhere else, like a shopping list item screen, and passing in the shopping list. We're already inside a for each loop, so we can simply pass in the shopping list. All right. This is going to land us in the shopping list item screen, which does have a button. When we press the button, we should be taken to the add shopping list item screen. Let's go ahead and run this and see it. So now we can click on the HEB and click on this, tap on this plus sign, and it actually does take us to the add item or add shopping list item screen. And that is where we will be adding a brand new item to a particular shopping list. All right, so our next step is to construct and create the add shopping list item screen where we can add an item to a particular shopping list. All right. So let's first see that how our existing code looks like. I'm going to simply go ahead and try to run the preview and see if the preview can digest the information and spit out some sort of a view. Sometimes the preview doesn't work correctly, as you have seen before, but let's see. Okay, doesn't like it, doesn't look like preview. Okay, here we go. Okay, now when we have these items listed on the screen, I also want the item to have a category, meaning we can select a produce, fruit, meat, condiments, and things like that. So let's first create the very simple interface so that you know what I'm talking about. The first thing first, I'm going to go ahead and add the environment for the dismiss, so I can dismiss this modal. This will be displayed in a modal, that's why. I'm also going to go ahead and create a variable to hold my columns for the lazy vgrid that I will create. And I will also create some hard-coded list of categories like produce, fruit, meat, condiments, beverages, snacks, and dairy. These are the different things that I will eventually be displaying. Now let's go ahead and try to display something on the screen. Keep in mind that this particular view, which is add shopping list item screen, will be used to add a particular shopping item like milk, cookies, bread, eggs to a particular shopping list. And this particular view, which is add shopping list item screen, will also be used to update an existing shopping item. I'm going to go ahead and say lazy vgrid. Okay. And in the columns, I'm simply going to pass in columns, the one that I created on line number 16. And now we can go ahead and display the content. So for each data where data is an array of those categories, we're going to go ahead and display an item. And now I can go ahead and add a couple of different things about this item, like if I want to display a text item with a width of, let's say, 130. All right. And I will also go ahead and probably say background. And the background, I'm going to say that it will be green. And you will see on the right-hand side, it's getting updated. That's perfectly fine. Other than that, I'm going to make sure that this is a clip shape to be a little bit more rounded corner. And also, we can say foreground color can be white. So the text color will be white. Okay, looking good already. Okay. All right, so this will be our grid that we are displaying, which allows the user an opportunity to select a particular category. I'm going to also add a spacer with a particular frame, and let's go with the height of 60, so that I can add a text field and a quantity field. Let's go ahead and add a text field and a quantity field. It's going to complain that where is this quantity and text is going to go. So this means that we need to add our state variables on line number 16 and 17. And hopefully now it will display our text field. Okay. It's still building, so hopefully it will refresh and show us our text fields somewhere. We're also going to make sure that our VStack has a bit of a padding, so it's not completely hooked up or touching the sides. And finally, we will be able to add a button. So I'm going to go ahead and add a button with a particular action and a label. Action is when the button is actually clicked, but for label, we're simply going to use a save label. There we go. And we're also going to say that the button style is bordered. And there is a padding which will be on the top, and that will be, let's say, 20. And let's add a spacer on the bottom too. Okay. On the top title, we can go ahead and probably say navigation item. Navigation title is add item. So this is how our view currently looks like. And it looks pretty good, right? It will allow us to save a particular item or update. We haven't really figured out how to update. We're still trying to do just the save part, keeping in mind that we are sending in the shopping list. So shopping list is already there. One of the other things that we need to do is we need to find out that which of these items are selected. So right over here, we have the code for the item, and you can see that what we're missing is the on tap gesture. So let's go ahead and add on tap gesture. And we will simply say selected category equals to the actual item. There is no selected category, so this means that we will need to be passing that stuff. So let's go ahead and create that as a state variable. There we go. We just added a selected category. Now, if the selected category is actually the one that you have selected, then we should probably change the background color to something else instead of all of them always having green. So we can say if the selected category is actually the item, then go ahead and use the color orange, or else just use green. All right. Let's go ahead and see if we can run the application. Sometime you can see that Xcode preview wouldn't really allow us to run that. Okay, so it's still building, I guess. Oops, it I think canceled. And there we go. This is what we wanted to create. So whenever we select an item, you can see that item is actually highlighted, indicating that that particular item is actually selected. Great. Now we can save the item, which will go over here in the button action. Okay, so for saving the item, we will have to create an instance of the shopping list item. We'll just call it shopping item equals to shopping item. We will assign a couple of different things about this item, like the title is one of them. Shopping list item.quantity might be another one of them. We'll say quantity. And if the quantity is not defined, then we'll just use 1. And we also want to use the category. But there is no category property available on the shopping list. Or is there? Well, let's go ahead and check it out. If we open up the models, we can see the shopping item. And we don't really have a category over here. So what we can do is we can simply go ahead and add a new category. If you run the application right now, it is going to complain and it's going to blow up because your MongoDB, your realm, it's going to say that, hey, who added this category? The schema is not really matching. So I don't know, this category is not going to work, right? So we'll have to go back to the migrator and we have to make sure that we are adding that particular version number, or we're adding that particular field to our code. Now, depending on which version number we need to do that, let's go ahead and say over here, if it is less than 1, then we are going to be doing this part. All right. Now, currently it is, if it has already been migrated, then the migration is already over. We can also go ahead and say if schema version is less than 2, then we can add some new fields also. So migration.enumerate objects of type, and in this case we will be using the shopping item.className. We will get and ignore the old object, and in the new object we will add the category. So in the new object we will add a category property which will be defined as an empty string. Let's go ahead and build it. And just for checking it out, let's go ahead and run the application. Okay, so we can definitely see some problems over here. Migration is required due to the following errors. You can see that the category has been added, and it is throwing us this kind of an error. All right. So we need to find out a way to fix this. Let's go back to our migration. This is our migration. So old migration, new migration, you can see that if it's less than 1, then it is doing that. If it's less than 2, then it is doing this migration. We will also need to change the migration version number because we didn't, because now we can actually change it to 2. So make sure that whenever you add or modify anything, you have to change the migration number, or else it will always be hooked up to the last migration. But now our migration has changed because we just added some other stuff to it. And now you can see it's working out correctly. Perfect. So now we can go back to our application and assign the category, wherever that particular category is coming from, which will be selected category in this case. And finally, we can use the shopping list dot items dot append and passing in the value, which in this case will be shopping item. All right. Let's go ahead and make sure that we are doing this correctly. I'm not sure why it's complaining about over here. Shopping list. Let's double check that we have the correct property name and everything. Does look like we have the correct name, persisted var. Okay. And selected category is defined as something. So this should be shopping item, not the shopping list. So that was my mistake. And let's go ahead and build it. Okay, so looks good now, everything. We still need to make sure that we are actually going to the add shopping list items screen. So let's double check everything. Let's go ahead and run this and see that if we are able to add an item or not. So I'm going to go to HEB. I'm going to go try to add an item, and I'm going to say meat or dairy, whatever you want. Let's say snacks, cookies, and 5, and save. Okay, so we forgot to do the dismiss part, but let's go ahead and see that if it is actually being saved or not. So you can see that we have the shopping item and cookies are being saved. Quantity is 5 and it belongs to a category which is snacks. If I go to the shopping list, you can even see the shopping list is telling you that an item has been saved, and basically it is one-to-many relationship, and how many items are actually connected? It's only one of them. So that's pretty cool that using the MongoDB Realm Studio, we're able to see that if our items and our relationships are working correctly or not. Going back over here, and after adding, we can go ahead and say dismiss, so that our items are dismissed now. All right. The next thing that we want to do is also allowing the user not only to add an item, but also obviously display the items in the particular shopping list screen. So how can we do that? Let's go ahead and find out. So this should be shopping item, not the shopping list. So that was my mistake. And let's go ahead and build it. Okay, so looks good now, everything. We still need to make sure that we are actually going to the add shopping list item screen. So let's double check everything. Let's go ahead and run this and see that if we are able to add an item or not. So I'm going to go to HEB. I'm going to go try to add an item. And I'm going to say meat or dairy, whatever you want. Let's say snacks, cookies, and 5, and save. Okay, so we forgot to do the dismiss part, but let's go ahead and see that if it is actually being saved or not. So you can see that we have the shopping item and cookies are being saved. Quantity is 5 and it belongs to a category which is snacks. If I go to the shopping list, you can even see the shopping list is telling you that an item has been saved, and basically it is one-to-many relationship, and how many items are actually connected? It's only one of them. So that's pretty cool that using the MongoDB Realm Studio, we're able to see that if our items and our relationships are working correctly or not. Going back over here, and after adding, we can go ahead and say dismiss, so that our items are dismissed now. All right. The next thing that we want to do is also allowing the user not only to add an item, but also obviously display the items in the particular shopping list screen. So how can we do that? Let's go ahead and find out. In order to display the items, we're going to go back to the shopping list item screen. This particular view, the page, the screen, is responsible for displaying the list of items for a selected shopping list. Currently, you can see that it's not really doing much. It's simply displaying and saying items. So let's go ahead and try to use a VStack. Well, we're already in a VStack, I guess. We can simply check for a couple of different things. All right. We're going to go ahead and say list for each. And now the question is, how do we get the items? Well, items is actually a property on shopping list. So we can definitely use that to refer to the shopping item. Once we have the item, the only thing we need to do is to display it. So I can use the title of the item to display it. Let's go ahead and run this and see that if we are able to display the item or not. We're going to go to HEB, and there we go. We see one item. If I go to Fiesta, I don't see anything. So this means that the items are getting displayed. Let's go ahead and add another item. This time I'm going to go ahead and say dairy, and I'm going to add milk, 1. And there we go, milk added to HEB. But if I go to Fiesta, nothing there. The title is always saying HEB, so we need to fix that part also. I think that's because we actually said it over here. This hopefully will be an easy fix. We can simply go there and say shopping list.title. Okay. So we are able to display the particular item. We would also like to display a check mark along with the item so that we can check mark the item and it will be gone. It will be deleted. All right. For this, I'm going to go ahead and create a separate folder, and I will call it views. Inside this folder, I'm going to add a shopping item cell. Let's go ahead and do that. Shopping item cell. The shopping item cell will be responsible for displaying the information related to the shopping item as well as a checkbox. This will be a view, so let's go ahead and start with it. A couple of different things we need to add. In order for the shopping item cell to work, you need to pass in the shopping item as well as a selected, whether it's true or not, and the isSelected property, which is going to tell you if this particular item was selected or not. Let's go ahead and update our preview. There we go. And if I go ahead and resume it, we should be able to see hopefully something. Right now, it might just say hello world, but we can update that so that we're able to see everything. Now, instead of writing all the code, I'm just going to go ahead and copy some portions of it. And now you can see that what it actually looks like. The image is displaying the checkmark square or square depending on if it's selected or not. Whenever you press on the image, which is right there, the selected property is reversed and then sent back to the caller. We are displaying the title of the item as well as a category and also the quantity. So now we have the shopping item cell. Let's go ahead and see how we can use it. Instead of the text over here, maybe we can use the shopping item cell. So shopping item cell. We must pass in a couple of different things. We need to pass in the item. So we'll say item. Selected, this is something that we don't have, and also is selected. Since we can select multiple items, what we will do is we will gather up all of those items and put them into an array. So I'm going to go ahead and create an array of selected item IDs. This means that we will know which ID we have selected and which ID we have not selected. If the selected item IDs contains the ID of the element that we are looking for, which is item.id, then it is selected. And in the it's selected, we're going to get back whether it is selected or not. And if the selected is true, then we are going to go ahead and add those particular IDs to the append function. So item.id. All right. We're also going to make sure that if the index to delete is something else, but I think index, we're going to check it out later, because first we need to see if we are able to even select or not. That's the first part. Once we are able to select an item, then whenever you select or check mark an item, that item will be removed from the database because we have already bought that item. If there are no items in a particular shopping list, we will display there are no items also. Let's go ahead and run this. Oh, we don't have any items over here. We will say shopping list or items. And let's go ahead and see if we can run it. Okay, let's go to HEB. You can see that it says snacks over here. Whenever we select these things, they are meant to be deleted now. They're not really getting deleted at this point because we haven't done that. But if we go there and if we check mark this, they will be removed, meaning we have already purchased these items. So that is something that we will have to think about, that how would we go about deleting those items whenever they are check marked. Okay. All right. So what will be our next step? Well, our next step, if we're deleting, is first of all, find the index of the item that you want to delete, and then simply call the remove function and then delete that item. Let's go ahead and build it. Once the build is successful, we can try to delete it. I'm going to go ahead and run the app. I'm going to check mark milk. Milk is gone. If I'm going to check mark cookies, cookies is gone, no items are left. I can go ahead and add new items. Let's say if I want to add some fruits, apples, let's say 4 of them. And I can go ahead and add some meat. I can say chicken, 1. Okay, looks like it's working fine. Now I can obviously check mark the item and it will be deleted. It's gone, it's purchased, we're done with it. All right. Now the next thing that we want to do is, apart from checking items and all that, it would be nice to filter the items also. And filter should be based on the category. Maybe I have a lot of items for meat and produce and fruits, and I want to filter it. For this, we will go ahead and create another view which will be responsible for displaying us the filtered categories, and we will call it category filter view. Now, the category filter view is responsible for displaying you all the filters. Instead of creating this particular control, and you can download the code and check it out, I'm just going to go ahead and add that. You can see that we have categories, and basically it's a scroll view, and it's going to allow you to select a particular category. So let's go ahead and see if we can actually run this in the preview so that you'll be able to see how it actually works. And if I run this, you can see that it's a scroll view, and if I worked correctly, then it should be able to allow me to select these things. But right now, we are simply selecting the meat option. All right. So this is exactly what we need. Let's go back to our code, and we will add the category filter view. There we go. By default, we will select the category to be all, which means show us all the categories. Now, if we're doing that, then we need to make sure that the items that we are displaying is also filtered, but currently they're not. We're just displaying all the items. So what we're going to do is we're going to create the items property, which is going to return you the shopping list or shopping item. And if the category is all, then we will display all the items. If the category is something else, then we will display something else. And now we can use items instead of shopping list.items. There we go. And we will be able to filter also. Let's go ahead and build the app. I'm going to go ahead and run it. And you can see that right now I'm looking at all, so that's why all the products are being displayed. But if I select produce, I don't have anything. If I select fruit, then I have apples, but I don't really have anything else. So let's go ahead and add, let's say, dairy products. And I'm going to go ahead and say milk, 2, and let's go ahead and say all of them. And in the dairy, I can also say, let's say yogurt or something. Okay, now I can say produce, fruit is 1, meat is nothing, condiments nothing, snacks, and then dairy should be 2. So it looks like everything is working fine now, right? So we're able to also sort these elements, which is kind of cool. Now currently we can sort it, which is great. We can check mark this. We can't really delete it. If I swipe it right to left, nothing really happens. So let's go ahead and see how we can swipe it. Now we have already done this part actually. So all we need to do is to call on delete. So let's go ahead and call on delete. And on delete will be using the shopping list items.remove. So this is a great thing about using Realm, that it has been structured to work with SwiftUI. Let's go ahead and run it. Now, if I swipe, you can see the delete button is appearing, and I can just delete yogurt. Great. I can sort it. Everything works great. But now the question is, how do we update an item? Maybe accidentally I added the item in the wrong category, or maybe the title of the item is wrong, or even the quantity of the item is wrong. How can we update an existing item? So in order to update the item, we're going to go back to our shopping list item screen. And currently, if I run the application, you will see that once I can see the items, I can't really go to the details of the item. If I want to update apples and maybe I want to buy 5 apples instead of 4, it doesn't really allow me to go anywhere. Like if I click over here, it doesn't really do anything. So what we want to do is we want to go to the same screen as this one. All right. And once we go to this screen, we will be able to edit the item. Now you can create a separate screen for updating the item, but since updating and adding is so close to each other, we can utilize the same screen. So the first thing we need to do is we need to make sure that we are able to go to the add shopping list item screen. So inside the for each, I'm going to go ahead and create a navigation link with a particular destination and a label. Now, label is the easy part because the label that we're going to use will be simply the shopping item cell. So that is the part that the user will see on the screen. Where you actually want to go, we will call it shopping list item screen. And you can see that we have to pass in the shopping list, which we have. So we can simply go ahead and pass in the shopping list. But we also need to pass in the item to edit. And we have the item to edit, but the add shopping list item screen does not support passing in the extra parameter. So let's go and update our add shopping list item screen so that we're able to pass something extra. I'm going to go ahead and jump over there. Okay, so over here you can see that we can pass in the shopping list, that's fine, but we're not able to pass anything else. Also, let me go ahead and make this private var. Okay, and now I can go ahead and say item to edit, and it will be a shopping item. And yes, it can be nullable, meaning that you may or may not pass that. So this may or may not have a particular value. Let's go ahead and run the application after making that change. I can go to HEB, and now you can see over here the detailed disclosure. This means that I can navigate and look at the details of the apples. And it takes me to this particular add item screen. Now, a couple of different things we need to note over here is we have this over here extra space. And the reason that we are getting this extra space is because we are adding a navigation view also again, which we shouldn't for updating the item. So that is something we have to take care of later. But for now, we need to find out how to fill out all of these different things and how to select or pre-select whatever the selection was already done. So we need to figure out all of those things. So looking at the add shopping list item screen, we will go back and we will implement our initializer. The initializer will take on the shopping list, which will be of type shopping list, and the item to edit, which is shopping item, and the default value will be nil. This is just a constructor or initializer that we're creating. We can initialize our shopping list by simply saying shopping list, and we can initialize the item to edit by whatever the user is sending. Now, if item to edit is not nil, then we can go ahead and change the title to the initial value of the state. So we can go ahead and say the state will be assigned to the value that is coming from the title of item to edit. And we can use the same exact approach for the quantity also. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. And we can use the same exact approach for the selected category. So basically, we're trying to change the value of all of these different state properties and assigning it different things. Now, if I go ahead and run it now, you will be able to see. Let's go ahead and run it. Okay, so I'll go to HEB, I'll go to apples. Now you can see a couple of different things, right? you can see that the fruit is already selected, apples is already there, the quantity 4 is already there. So this is great because a lot of stuff is already selected. Milk, dairy, 2 items of milk. So this is really nice that we're able to do that in very 2-3 lines of code. So all the items, since we're trying to update, they are already selected. Okay. Now we still have the save button. When we save, we want to actually update it. So let's see what the save button is actually doing. You can see that the save button is simply executing some code and trying to save something. But the save button is going to work as an update. So I will say save or update the item. If let item to edit, this means that if the item to edit does have some sort of a value, then we should probably perform the update, else we should perform the save. And no matter what happens, you still have to dismiss it. Now we can go and create a save function. So make sure that we're creating the save function somewhere. Let's go on the top. Okay, right over here is fine. Save function. And the save function is exactly what we were doing before. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy all of this stuff and put it in the save because we already have the code to save anyways. And now let's go ahead and call the save function. There we go. The other thing we need to do is to perform the update function. So I'm going to go ahead over here and say update. Once again, we are going to get the value from item to edit. And now we can perform the update. So let realm equals to try realm. And we are first of all going to get the object that we want to update. So object to update. And you can use the realm.object and pass in the type of object that you're looking for. In this case, we're looking for the shopping item using the primary key. So we can simply pass in the ID because that is the primary key. If it's not found, then it's not found. We can't really do anything about that. And now we can go ahead and perform realm.write, which is actually going to perform the update and set the title to be the title. All right. And object to update category will be equals to selected category. And also object to update, in this case, quantity will be equals to integer quantity, whatever the quantity is, or else we'll take the 1. Okay. Now we're using try catch, so we have to use do over here and making sure that we also catch the error. Let's go ahead and make sure that we are wrapping it correctly. Okay, looks like it's building fine now and making sure that we are calling the function over here. So now we can call the function also. Perfect. Let's go ahead and run the application and see if our update is working or not. So I'm going to go ahead and run it. And I'm going to go to HEB. I can see apples. And let's go ahead and change this to something else. Let's say green apples. And also let's change the quantity to 6 instead of 4. And there we go. We can see that now it has changed to green apples. Now I'll go to milk and I'll change that to something. Let's say oat milk or something. And we'll change that to 10. And there we go. We can go back to the green apples and change this to produce or snacks. And you can see it's snacks now. And we can go to oat milk and change it to condiments. So it looks like our update is working perfectly fine. So we learned a lot of stuff in this video. We learned how to create, retrieve, update, delete. One of the other things that we need to figure out is how to remove this extra spacing. All of this is being added because the navigation bar is getting displayed over here even though we are doing a push navigation. So in this case, we should be able to remove the extra navigation bar. But if we remove the navigation bar, then it will also be removed from this part. So we have to do something in order to keep the navigation bar for the actual title, meaning the actual modal, but hide the navigation bar or don't use it again when we are using the push navigation. Now for the push navigation, we can simply remove it, right? I mean, we can simply go over here and try to find out where it closes and just remove the navigation view. This is going to take care of the first problem. However, if we do that, we are going to lose that navigation bar that we were trying to do, and we are going to lose that. You can see that if we add that, we're going to lose that. Now, we can always go back and type something kind of like on the top to give it more of a navigation feel. The navigation bar is still here over here, but for adding the item, if you want, you can go ahead and add something so that we can give them a navigation bar. All right. So that is something we need to be fixing. So let's go ahead and work on that. Okay, so we have already removed the navigation view, but if we have removed the navigation view, we also want to make sure that the navigation view is, or some sort of a title at least, is available when we are adding an item. So if I go over here and add an item, since I've removed the navigation view, you can see the navigation view is gone. There's nothing on the top. Also, I would like to, since I'm trying to update the item, I would like to change this into updating an item instead of adding an item. So let's go to work on that. I'm going to go ahead and create another property called isEditing, which is going to return true or false. Now, this will be based on item to edit. So if item to edit is equals to nil, which means that there's nothing to edit, then isEditing will be false because you're trying to add a new item probably. And if the item to edit is not nil, then we will return true. Using isEditing, we can change the text. If edit is editing, then we can say update item. Else we can say add item. And the same principle we can apply over here. If is editing, then we can say update, else we can say save. All right. Now, when we talk about what will happen when we're adding an item, since there's no navigation view, we can simply go ahead and add some sort of a title on our own. If it is editing, well, if actually it's not editing, then we will go ahead and add a text view, which is saying adding a new item. And we can change the font size to be large title. We can even make everything aligned to the leading. Let's go ahead and run this application and now see that if the title as well as the button title changes based on whether you're editing or not. So I'm going to go to HEB, going to add an item. You can see add item is printed there. Now you can change the font if you want, but at least now we have some sort of a top level item, meaning some sort of a heading. If I go, you can see it says update item, and it will also say update everywhere. So it looks like everything is working correctly now, and we have learned a lot in this particular video because we started with nothing. We actually created this whole app from scratch using the Realm database, which is on our device right now, and using a very, very fluent API that Realm has provided to us, which will allow us to persist these models to the database. So I really hope that you have enjoyed this video, and check out the YouTube description where you will find the link to Realm and a link to save money on when you are using different coupons. So all of that stuff related to Realm, you're going to find all of that cool stuff right there in the YouTube description. So make sure to check that out. All right. And thank you so much, and really hope you've enjoyed the video.